Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Thursday, October 26th, 2023. Welcome to day 1010. A manhunt for the gunman suspected of killing 18 people and injuring 13 others in Maine is ongoing. Suspect Robert Card shot and killed the victims at a bowling alley and restaurant and then fled. He remains at large and is considered armed and dangerous, and residents are currently under a shelter-in-place advisory. Biden urged Congress to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines similar to the ones used by Card, saying this is not normal and we cannot accept it. This is the 36th mass killing in the United States this year and marks the deadliest shooting of 2023 thus far. Moving on, the Israeli military briefly sent tanks into the Gaza Strip as part of a targeted raid in order to prepare the battlefield in preparation for the next stages of combat. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel was preparing for a ground incursion of Gaza, but that he won't specify when or how it would occur. The UN has warned that despite Israeli evacuation warnings, nowhere is safe in Gaza. Israel has also rejected international calls for a ceasefire to allow the delivery of humanitarian aid supplies into the Gaza Strip. Since the attack by Hamas on October 7th, the Israeli military has struck more than 7,000 targets inside of Gaza in what has been called indiscriminate targeting of civilians. The Gaza Health Ministry said at least 7,028 Palestinians have been killed, including 2,913 children. The House of Representatives, meanwhile, passed a bipartisan resolution that states the U.S. stands with Israel as it defends itself against the barbaric war launched by Hamas and other terrorists. It also calls for an immediate halt of violence. And the Pentagon is deploying roughly 900 U.S. troops to the Middle East, none of which are going to Israel. Meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Greene introduced a resolution to censure Rashida Tlaib. The measure would censure Tlaib, the only Palestinian American in Congress, for alleged anti-Semitic activity, sympathizing with terrorist organizations, and leading an insurrection at the Capitol because she spoke to protesters advocating for a ceasefire in the war. Tlaib called Greene's resolution deeply Islamophobic and attacks peaceful Jewish anti-war advocates. Democrats are expected to censure Greene in retaliation for her history of inflammatory rhetoric, including a history of racism, homophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and the promotion of conspiracy theories. Other lawmakers are preparing a resolution to expel George Santos, who faces federal charges for wire fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, lying to Congress, and identity theft. The ongoing tit-for-tat comes as the House faces a November 17th deadline to pass a spending measure and avoid a government shutdown, as well as consider Biden's request for $106 billion in emergency funds for Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and the U.S. southern border. Moving on, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has discussed potential plea deals with at least 6 more Trump co-defendants in the Georgia election subversion case. Of the 19 defendants in the case, 4 have accepted a deal, including 3 attorneys who illegally conspired to overturn Trump's election loss in the state. Meanwhile, special counsel Jack Smith asked a judge to reimpose a federal gag order on Trump in the election interference case, citing Trump's recent comments targeting a known witness in this case in an attempt to influence and intimidate him. Smith argued that the court should also consider stricter sanctions, including sending Trump to jail if he keeps talking about witnesses in the case. Smith said Trump has capitalized on the temporary suspension of his partial gag order to send an unmistakable and threatening message to a foreseeable witness in this case. Moving on, a federal judge ordered Georgia to redraw new congressional and state legislative maps before the 2024 election. District Court Judge Steve Jones wrote that the political maps drawn by Republican lawmakers after the last census violate the Federal Voting Rights Act by diluting the voting power of black voters. The judge also ordered lawmakers to redraw the congressional map to include an additional majority black district, 2 additional majority black state Senate districts, and 5 additional majority black state House districts. And finally, North Carolina Republicans approved a new congressional map that eliminates roughly half of the Democrats representing the state in the House of Representatives. The state's congressional delegation is currently split 7-7 between the political parties, but the new map divvies up the state's 14 congressional districts into 10 districts that favor Republicans, 3 that favor Democrats, and 1 that is considered competitive for both parties. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the Maine website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Anditas.